how we were looking into the problem of lost empathy in our fast-paced world, and using Stoicism to rediscover compassion, discernment, and authenticity. We show how lies, manipulation, and controlling behaviors reflect our own inner fight. We're not just exposing, we're also suggesting a way to understand and change ourselves. We argue that our true essence is not in technology, but in the ability to connect with each other humanly. We invite you to stay with us until the end, as we look into how to regain empathy, face truths, and grow freedoms in our lives. This isn't just an invitation to watch, it's a call to evolve lack of empathy in a world moving at breakneck speed where technology connects. We've lost something very important in ways we couldn't have imagined before: empathy. But why does this basic human trait seem to be going away in modern relationships? Stoicism, a concept that goes back hundreds of years, tells us to look beyond ourselves and realize that everyone has their own universe of struggles and victories. Just think about what it would be like to live someone else's life for a day, to feel their pain, to celebrate their wins, and to truly understand their problems. In a time when I feel like I'm going nowhere, Stoicism teaches kindness and respect for each other. Recognizing that not being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes is not our flaw, but theirs, is a brave step toward building stronger communities and better relationships. It's not an easy trip, but it's one that should be taken because a society's real strength isn't measured by how far it can go technologically, but by how well it can handle human manipulation. The labyrinth of human relationships. Manipulation looks like a dark path full of traps that can take people off track from their own goals. It's a game of shadows where intentions are hidden and movements are planned, to influence often without leaving any signs of its sneaky presence. But how do you get through these dangerous waters without getting lost? Stoicism, which has its roots in the search for truth and inner freedom, can be a guiding light. This ancient philosophy asks us to build a shield of discernment, which helps us see past what we see and question the motives behind other people's words and actions. Stoicism teaches us that real freedom comes from being emotionally independent, which lets us make choices that are in line with our core values instead of what other people want. But how can we improve our ability to tell the difference? It starts with practicing listening to not only what is said but also how it is said and what isn't said. It also means paying attention to your own thoughts and noticing when something doesn't seem right. Asks people to be brave and look for the truth, even if it's not handy in a world that often puts value on appearances over essence. When you follow the path of Stoicism, you choose authenticity over manipulation. You choose a true freedom over telling a lot of lies. In a world where the truth is often hidden in shadows, telling a lot of lies breaks down the trust that holds people together. Stoicism's ancient light leads us to the path of integrity and honesty, teaching us to value truth above all else. It encourages us to be living examples of authenticity, standing firm even when the waves of dishonesty try to wash over us. Stoicism reminds us that, even though we can't change what other people do, we do have complete control over how we reply to them. We can choose to be honest and respectful in our responses. Living with the truth is a brave choice that goes against the flow of lies that wants to drown us. It teaches us how to build strong bridges of trust so that we can walk on them safely, knowing that we are creating a space where the truth not only survives but thrives. When people feel the need to control others, their behavior shows that they are insecure and tries to control the chaos of relationships in a pointless way. This kind of behavior not only shows a deep lack of trust but also undermines the core values of mutual respect and personal liberty. Stoicism, with its timeless wisdom, teaches us to value individual freedom, to protect our independence, and set healthy boundaries against attempts at dominance. It does this by encouraging us to build the inner strength we need to deal with controlling behaviors, creating an atmosphere of freedom and respect. Stoicism teaches us to guard our space, minds, and paths, protecting our basic freedom against any attempt to take it away. It's a powerful lesson that while we can love and help others, we must first protect our own freedom and well-being. Having a past of bad relationships. Looking at a picture of bad relationships from the past can be like looking into a mirror that shows us not only our situations, but also parts of ourselves that may need care and attention. This string of bad relationships is not just a coincidence. It points to a big chance to learn about how we connect with others and deal with disagreements. Stoicism is an ancient philosophy that tells us to be good people and try to get along with others. It encourages us to think about ourselves in order to understand and improve how we deal with others. We are asked to look at ourselves through this lens and ask ourselves not only how we react to others, but also how we add to the dynamics of these relationships. The point of this self-reflection practice is not to find. Embracing Stoicism teaches us to see each relationship as a chance to practice empathy, open conversation, and mutual respect. It also shows us how to build stronger, healthier relationships. Things that are necessary for a strong and peaceful society. Having to deal with aggressiveness, whether it comes from harsh words or sudden actions, is a real task. Stoic lessons about justice, calmness, and respect show us that when someone is being mean, we shouldn't get angry back. Stoic philosophy says to stay calm and set clear limits that show respect is the most important thing. The point isn't to fight, but to figure out why someone is being so angry or hurt. It's important to be strong while still being understanding. Being fair means showing that everyone has their own room and limits. This keeps the peace and gives the other person a chance to think. Aggression is often a disguised cry for help. So the Stoic approach tells us not to fight back, but to find real solutions that solve the problem, while always respecting the other person's lack of responsibility. If someone denies being responsible for their actions, it means they have a long way to go in terms of honesty and maturity. Stoicism's view on life puts personal duty at the center of how we grow as people. We need to take responsibility for our actions, in both good and bad times, in order to grow as people and make society more fair and peaceful. It's not enough to just accept when you're wrong. You need to learn from them and do better next time. This philosophy tells us that everything we do is part of the bigger picture of life, and that keeping the peace and order in society starts with us being honest with ourselves and with others. Taking responsibility not only makes us stronger as people, but it also gives us power by showing that we are in charge of our lives and the decisions we make. Depending only on surface-level charm, the kind that gets people's attention but doesn't give them anything in return, is like building a house without a foundation. It might look good at first, but it doesn't last. This old advice that still speaks clearly to us tells us to value who we are in our real traits and authenticity, not just how we look, is what makes relationships real and worth keeping. Really, first impressions are important, but they're not everything. The relationships that last and help us through good and bad times are built on a lot more than that. They're based on honesty, trust, and mutual respect. Stoicism tells us to be honest and show who we really are. It also tells us to look for people who are honest and open with them. Build strong relationships that aren't just for show, but for sharing a real life. I'm impressed by your thirst for knowledge. If this content has helped you in any way, please leave a review. Let's keep the pressure on to move relationships along quickly. A strong desire to move a relationship along faster than it should is often a sign that something is wrong, like a need for control or a strong emotional dependence. Being Stern, with its advice that never goes out of style, talks about how important it is to be patient and give things time. True relationships aren't formed quickly. They're formed slowly and through respect for natural growth and mutual understanding. The desire to rush things may be a sign of our anxiety or a need to fill a void inside us with someone else's presence. But Stoicism reminds us that the strength of any human connection comes from reflection, deep understanding, and patience. It's worth waiting for things to naturally develop, respecting our own time and the time of others, so that Stoicism, which always leads us with its knowledge, shows us how important it is to have personal freedom and set limits that protect our mental and emotional health. These limits are like an invisible wall that keeps us safe. Personal boundaries are important for good relationships because they protect both people involved. If our boundaries are crossed, we need to stand up and say what they are, showing that our integrity is important to us. Stoicism teaches us to be firm but fair, building relationships based on genuine respect where everyone knows and values the other person's space. It's a reminder that to make real connections, we need to respect not only each other's boundaries but also our own. Inconsistencies in stories are like walking along a trail in a dense forest. With each step, the path seems to change. You see, our ability to tell the difference? It starts with practicing listening to not only what is said but also how it is said and what isn't said. It also means paying attention to your own thoughts and noticing when something doesn't seem right. Bridge. Then it disappears and is replaced by a raging river. This trail is like that. Stoicism is an old philosophy that still speaks to us today. It tells us to be like explorers in a forest, looking for truth among the trees of dishonesty and paths that change with the wind. It teaches us to use our internal compass to find our way so we don't get lost in the forest of lies when we come across inconsistencies. Our honesty helps us stay on track, like a north star in the night sky. When we hear stories that change shape like clouds in the sky, we are asked to question to find the essence, the real nature of things. It's an invitation to not just listen, but to listen carefully. Being honest helps us tell the difference between what is real and what is fake, and between what will last and what will fade. Being honest strengthens our relationships and our inner peace. By being honest and using discernment, we leave a legacy of trust and respect for ourselves and those we share our journey with. This is how we can keep our balance and move forward, even when things don't go as planned or when things change. Honesty and the light of truth lead them to ignore laws and social rules. Society is complicated and based on rules and laws that keep things running smoothly and protect everyone's well-being. When people break these rules, they do so for their own benefit without thinking about how their actions will affect others. This is not only selfish, but it's also bad for society as a whole. But also could be harmful, putting our security and harmony at risk. Dear Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that values justice, mutual respect, and working together for the common good, teaches us to value and follow the rules set by society. This ancient philosophy asks us to think about how our actions affect others and the world around us, encouraging peaceful and productive coexistence. Following the rules is more than just a duty. It's a way of recognizing how important it is to live in a community where everyone can. Taking this stance not only helps society as a whole, but it also helps us develop good personal traits like empathy, responsibility, and honesty. By living by these principles, we make the world more fair and balanced, so everyone can grow and contribute to the common good. If you're liking this, don't pass up the chance. Buy the book right now, Stoicism in the 21st Century, Old Methods for Dealing with Modern Problems. This ebook will help you find prosperity, make your relationships better, and unlock your wealth. In the pinned comment, it was said that isolation is a tool that people who want to control or influence others often use to cut ties that connect us with our support network. This practice not only hurts our mental health but also takes away our freedom. An important part of our life, Stoicism, on the other hand, values individual freedom very highly. Individuals should be strong and able to handle their own problems, but Stoicism also teaches us to value connections with other people. These connections should not be seen as a dependence, but as a reflection of our shared humanity and a social fabric that strengthens us against life's challenges. When people try to isolate us, Stoicism tells us to protect our independence and emotional health. It makes us think of how strong community can be, support from each other and the ability to ask for help when we need it. Instead of isolating ourselves, we are told to improve our connections and build bridges that keep us connected to those who care about and support us. The U.S. forecast projecting is like looking into a mirror and seeing someone else's reflection. When we attribute to others feelings or traits that are actually our own, we avoid facing our own flaws. It's a way to protect ourselves because we don't want to look inside and face what's really going on inside us. Stoicism is a way to find your way in life. We're going the other way. This old school of thought shows us how important it is to know ourselves, self-restraint, and being honest with yourself. It tells us to look deep inside ourselves, see our flaws and shadows, and deal with them in a healthy and constructive way, instead of blaming others for our problems. Stoicism tells us to take responsibility for our own lives and reminds us that real strength comes from being able to be honest with ourselves, accept our flaws, and work your way through them. When we accept this theory, we no longer have to hide our feelings. Instead, we should stop blaming others and start helping ourselves first. By putting our weaknesses on other people, we find that the only way to get better and grow as a person is to face our own problems with courage and honesty. This means that Stoicism isn't just about dealing with problems from the outside. It's also about winning internal battles and turning our problems into steps toward our evolution. What if I told you there's an ancient way to stop this emotional roller coaster? I'm talking about Stoicism, a philosophy that's not just for dusty old books, but a powerful tool for the modern world. As Stoics teach us, we can control our emotions with calm and knowledge. Here's a secret. The key is to allow our feelings to shape us, but not let them define us. Being cold or uncaring isn't what this means. It means finding the right balance so that we can feel sad, happiness, anger, and joy, without letting any of these feelings get the best of you. Take the wheel of our lives and start seeing our feelings as chances to grow instead of problems that need to be solved. At the end of the day, remember that our biggest challenge and biggest accomplishment is being able to say, I am the master of my emotions. On our journey, we face many challenges and crossroads. Life is full of moments that test us and make us question our own strength. In this case, we have to make a crucial choice that will affect the course of our lives. Will we be the hero, or will we be the victim who is constantly being abused? This trap dressed as comfort may look like a safe place to stay. After all, it's easier to blame others and the world for the problems we face. But this becomes a way of life that holds us back, stopping us from growing and changing. Stoicism teaches us the value of courage, taking responsibility, and being able to get through hard times. It asks us to look at ourselves, figure out our strengths and flaws, and not let our circumstances control our lives, but instead make our own. Living a tough life means seeing problems as chances to grow as a person. The ability to recognize that we can't control everything that happens to us, but can choose how to handle it. This is bravery personified, accepting responsibility for our trip. Seeing problems as steps toward becoming the best versions of ourselves, not caring about your wants in a world that seems to be spinning faster and faster. We can get caught up in our own problems and forget to look around. In this whirlwind of events and responsibilities, one of the most important parts of being human can be forgotten: empathy. Ignoring the needs of others isn't just a matter of forgetfulness, it's a selfish relational dynamic that pushes us apart. Stoicism's ancient wisdom is a powerful reminder of how important empathy is. Justice and mutual respect. This theory doesn't just teach us to be strong when things go wrong. It also encourages us to build relationships based on mutual support and understanding. After all, everyone we meet along the way has their own problems, hopes, and needs. Having empathy means putting ourselves in someone else's shoes and seeing their needs not as a burden, but as a chance to strengthen our relationships and make our community stronger and more helpful. This means listening carefully, offering our support, and sometimes giving up our own comforts for the sake of others. Adopting a stance of empathy and justice in our relationships is a daily exercise in personal and collective growth. When we practice empathy, we recognize the worth of every person and the importance of meeting each other's needs. By doing this, we not only improve our own lives, but we also help build a world where mutual respect and support are basic building blocks of human relationships. Justice and mutual respect aren't just ideals to aspire to. They're things you should actually do every day. By putting others' needs before our own, we not only build stronger relationships, but also a society that is more fair and caring. Use of threats or intimidation. In a world where pressure seems constant and where threats and intimidation loom over our heads, standing up can feel like a lonely journey. But imagine for a moment if we could face these problems with the calm and determination of the Stoics. Stoicism is not just a bunch of old ideas. It's a way of life that tells us to always put human dignity and justice first. When people try to control us or make us afraid, Stoicism tells us not to give in to our feelings, but to find inner peace. Protecting our safety and well-being is not only brave, it's our duty to ourselves and those around us, and it creates an atmosphere of respect where everyone feels safe and respected. Because our actions and decisions have an effect on the world, choosing honor and justice helps make it a place where threats and intimidation don't work. After all, respect and understanding are what bring people together. Adopting these principles will help us. We get over our fears and find not only peace but also a bigger reason for living. Are you ready to be a part of this change? Too much need for praise. Imagine living in a world where every like and remark is the foundation of our self-esteem. We get lost in other people's demands and forget who we really are as a result of our constant search for approval from them. But what if we could change that story? Stoicism, with its timeless wisdom, offers us a different way to go. Stoicism is an old teaching that tells us that true value doesn't come from outside sources, but from within. Instead of basing our happiness on other people's approval, Stoicism tells us to look within to build a strong sense of self-worth. Building this inner fortress makes us less reliant on praise from other people. Compliments are still welcome, but they don't define who we really are. Freedom comes when we learn to value ourselves without attention or praise. In this way, we find that the most valuable approval is the one that comes from within. This is the real power of Stoicism, being able to find peace and happiness in who we are, not in the image we project. So why not start this journey of self-discovery today? Invasion of privacy. These days, it's hard to tell the difference between public and private. With just a click, doors that should stay closed can be opened. Invasion of privacy. This effort to control people while pretending to be interested is a clear violation of their dignity. But what does Stoicism have to say about this? Stoicism, which stresses individual freedom and honor, tells us of how important trust and respect for each other are. Sharing private information about someone else without their permission is not only disrespectful, it also takes away their right to own their own place, which is where we all keep our deepest thoughts. Respecting someone's privacy is more than just being polite. It's a way of recognizing that they are a separate person with their own rights and feelings. Knowing that honesty and mutual respect are the most important parts of a relationship that builds trust and lets relationships grow on a foundation of understanding and empathy. By building relationships based on these values, we're not only protecting each person's space, we're also creating a place where everyone can feel safe, respected, and valued. This way of looking at Stoicism makes us think about how important every action and choice is. It reminds us that true harmony happens when we treat others' boundaries as if they were our own. This journey has the power to lead us to empathy and authenticity. If this journey spoke to you, please subscribe and share. Together, we can turn intentions into meaningful actions that make the world a better place.